This is Art Talk, sponsored by the Griffis Art Centre of New London, and this is the beginning of our new season, program number 69, and my guest today is Gerard Francis Smith, a painter, naturalist, realist, a very fine painter, and I am Pamela Bond, your host. We visited your studio, and we're going to show a film that we took on location. And I was quite thrilled with the things that you did.
Thank you very much.
Large paintings of nature, stone, particularly stone. You render the stone so beautifully.
Thank you.
But you've been doing this for how many years?
30 years.
30 years.
Professionally, 30 years.
Yes.
Yes.
And before that, you were a student.
I went to private lessons with Bernie Ledick, art class.
Yes.
About 5 years before I went professionally.
Yes. Now, when you say professionally, you mean that your income comes entirely from your painting?
From painting, that's right.
You're a very lucky man.
I know. That's true.
Yes. How did you get your first break?
Well, I'll tell you, way back, and my first break was with Mitch Morris, New York.
Mm-hmm.
He called me on the phone one afternoon, and he says, "Is this Gerard Smith who paints barns and scarecrows?" I said, "Yes, it is." And he said, "Well, we got to get together. Come on down to New York. Let's talk and make some kind of deal." And went down. I bought about 5 or 6 paintings, and he bought every one.
Oh.
And from that moment on, I was with him for about 10 years.
He's a gallery owner?
Yeah, yes, and dealer. Yeah,
yes.
an agent, yeah.
And he's still there?
No, he's no longer there, no.
Yes.
No. Well, I moved on.
Yes.
So did he.
And this is the 60s?
Yes.
And
That's
you were
right.
then painting barns and scarecrows?
Barns, yeah, mostly landscapes
Yes.
at that time, yeah.
In the realist manner that you use
basically what you see
today.
now, yeah.
Yes.
Not as, I would say, intense, with probably a lot of less detail, but it was basically same Gerard Smith, yeah.
Yes, you do go in a great deal for detail now.
I love it, yeah.
I notice.
I've gotten away from more detail and trying to get to more mood. The technical part, I think I accomplished that. I learned to go into more of a moody, maybe because of my age, I don't know. When you get older, you kind of think about the mood end of it. But
well, that's interesting. Yes, because your paintings, some of your paintings, the ones we're going to see shortly, are very moody, aren't they?
Yes, yes.
Yes.
Quite different than 20 years ago. It was more or less more commercial.
Yes.
New York type, you know, and do 2 paintings this week and send them to me, that type of thing. Those days are over. But,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, that comes with age and
Yeah,
success.
absolutely.
You can spend more time on your paintings and be inspired by mood, too.
That's true. That's true.
And I suppose when you go out there on the beaches and such, that's what happens. You are inspired.
Well, years ago, I used to take the camera and canvas and sketch pad and go looking for things.
Yes.
But I don't do that no more. I get my camera and sketch pad, but I let it happen.
Yes.
Walk along, I just spot something. Oh, that's it. That's a painting.
Yes.
Things like that, and be surprised you get more out of it that way too. And then the mood comes out of the painting because of that too.
And that is because of your own philosophy.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Well, I found your things really quite extraordinary.
Thank you.
But I was looking, there is one painting which we will see in when we view your studio of 2 cheetahs, and you see every hair.
Oh, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
what an awful lot of work that must have been.
Yeah, it was a lot of work. It took about 3 months to paint.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you even see the difference of the hair in the tail.
Yes.
Yes. and every whisker.
Yes.
And
well, like I mentioned in the studio too, the background, if you catch it on the camera, is done with palette knife, thicker.
Yes.
And that brought out the animals more with a soft fur.
Yes.
Look.
I had to look at that painting to see if the thicker parts were actually grass that you had incorporated
Oh,
into the
thank you.
picture. It was so
That's a
beautifully
compliment.
done.
Thank you.
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
That was very lovely. And I know that occasionally you do commissions
Oh, yes.
of things that,
Yes.
that tickle your fancy,
Yeah,
as it
yes,
were.
absolutely, yes.
Cars, for example.
I like cars. Vintage cars are one of my favorites, yes. Birds of prey is another one of my favorites.
Yes.
I have to put on the top of the list. We go eagle watching all winter, from January right actually to March.
And where do you go?
At the Connecticut River, up near Gillette Castle.
I see.
Yeah, the
yes.
ferry, up that.
Yes.
And we sit about 6 or 7 every time we go. It's
They
getting more and more.
they tell me around Hamburg Cove they see a lot too.
It's good. It's another good area. Yes, but they give me a lot of inspiration.
Yes.
To paint, just watching those beautiful birds. They're
Well, they're
fantastic.
so huge and they
they are.
soar.
Yeah, the wingspan's over 6 feet.
Isn't that extraordinary?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're great birds.
Yes, and they're coming back now.
They are. When we
Yes.
first started watching eagles like 5 or 6 years ago, really steady, it was like 1 or 2. You'll be so surprised and we're so happy to see them. Now, the past couple of years, we've been spotting 6, 8, 10, 12 in one afternoon, which is, that's great.
Yes.
That's great.
Yes,
They're coming
yeah.
back. Thank God. That's great.
And people collect these pictures.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Well, there are a lot of nature lovers in Connecticut, and one isn't surprised.
Yes. Oh, yes.
But thank heaven people are paying attention to the conservation of these birds.
Oh, that's true.
The egrets also are coming back.
Egrets and ospreys.
And ospreys,
When
yes.
I first moved to Waterford 18 years ago, there was 1 or 2. And now there must be 10 or 15 in the area, which is
Yes,
fantastic.
yes.
Within the 18-year spread. That's
And,
great.
and laying eggs
Oh,
and
yes,
producing
yes,
chickens.
yes, absolutely.
They're not chickens. They're,
No.
what do you call them?
The
The young.
young, yeah,
The young,
yeah.
yes. Well, the ones you choose have a lot of contrast in their color.
Yes. I go
And,
for contrast. I love
yes,
contrast.
yes,
Lights and darks.
Yes.
Yeah, that sets me right. That turns me right on when I see light and dark. It could be a shadow going across the field. That will make me paint the whole field and barn and everything just because of that one shadow.
Well, that's a fine inspiration. Well, now we're going to show our audience some of your lovely
great.
paintings.
Wonderful.
We're going to pan the studio, and then there'll be a little talk with you, which was made on location.
Right. This painting I have here of my driftwood was started last year in '94, summer of '94. Walking along the Atlantic Bay shore, I came across the driftwood and thought it very remarkable to paint. I photographed it, I sketched it, and went back several times to do thumbnail sketches of it. And this is 1995. I'm still working on it. I took a recent walk this past summer and found the driftwood all destroyed, so in one sense I'm very happy that I got it on canvas. As far as recording it, it's on canvas, and I'm happy about that. But it's not quite done yet. There's only about 3/4 of it finished. More work in the background. As you notice in the painting, in the shadowed areas, I have my little sandpiper with her chick right here. She wasn't there at the particular time, but I think that I always try to go for one nice little vocal point in my work, and I think that just sets the painting right off just right. And of course, what struck me about the whole thing is this long, gorgeous, ghostly shadow that I put in there. I just love that. That got my inspiration up to paint it as soon as I spotted that shadow. And as I go along in my work, I go along the shoreline, I pick up shells. I have the shell down here, the lower right-hand corner. And I have it right here. As you can see, you know, it's the same shell. I bring all the shells and pieces of wood and little pebbles back to my studio to help me do the little detail work. Another thing that caught my eye was I loved the driftwood itself. The difference, the contrast between the background and the wood. I still have to darken the background a little bit to bring the wood out a little bit more. It was a bone white color, and that's what I try to portray, and I still have to do a little bit more work on that. Little shell hanging from the driftwood branch, gorgeous. I spot little things like that. That sets it right off. There's rocks actually enlarged right in there, and it just stuck in there. Probably the past years, nature just kind of caught the rock and grabbed it in the root. Got one over here too. Over here, it's not quite done, so the detail doesn't show up enough yet, but we'll get to that as I go along. Nice little shadows in the wood here. I love this long shadow. Makes the whole painting. Still work in the pebbles to do. As again I mentioned, it's only 3/4 done. It's not quite done yet. Take another 2 or 3 weeks before it's complete. But maybe now we should go to another painting. Here we have a gerfalcon. It's one of my favorite birds. I specialize in birds of prey. This is a bird from the north. Sometimes migrates down through Maine, but normally up the Arctic. It's his residence. The background actually came from New London. It's a wall right off Route 32, right near Conn College. Drove by there one day, and it was a fantastic backdrop for this bird. I sketched the bird, actually almost painted it half before the background was even put on there. And I came across this beautiful cliff with the colors in it. You see nice ochres in it and the siennas. And I thought it made a beautiful backdrop for the bird. The white gray of the bird with the brown and siennas of the cliff was just perfect. And a little added touch to the far right, if you notice. Little wildflowers growing there. I think, again, it just kind of sets off the whole painting. And of course, I love contrast, so I go for the lights over here of the bird and the contrast of the background up near the head and the back of the head. You see, nice contrast there. I love doing that in all my work. This bird was a very hard painting to paint. It took several months. As you can see, the feather pattern and the wing. Every feather's different. Shading in each one, all different. And even the tail has a tinge of ochre in it. That's the natural color of the bird, and the wing too, the bottom part. The primary feathers have a tinge of ochre compared to the chest. Chest is pure white. This is the white phase of the gyrfalcon. There's the black phase and the gray phase, but I particularly like the white, so I painted that. But this is one of my favorite paintings. We could go to another painting if you like. Here's another one of my favorite paintings, not quite finished. It's titled Devil's Harp Yard. It's from Devil's Harp Yard. It's a sheer cliff, actually on the right-hand side, walking down from the falls. You'll see it if you ever take a walk there. I just fell in love with the lichen and the moss. And what really caught my eye was early in the spring of last year, actually, '94. The lower right, you'll see just a little sprout of a tiny little tree just starting to bloom, just coming out with 6 or 7 leaves. That caught my eye right away. I said, that's a gorgeous, gorgeous painting. The sun just happened to hit it just right. And that's one reason I was fascinated by it, to paint it. And you know, to the left, you'll see, because early spring, the grass just hasn't started to take off with color. And it's still got that winter look to it. But again, the sun just happened to catch that just right. And that turned me on. It was absolutely fantastic to paint. This is about 3/4 finished. 2 weeks ago, I went back and I noticed a new stain on the wall. That probably happened over the course of the winter. There's one in the middle, runs all the way down. And there's one to the far right. And it was just trickling down a little tiny, almost a miniature waterfall. That's still what I have to accomplish here. So again, this is not quite done. It's like 3/4 done, but I noticed that 2 weeks ago. So I want to definitely put that in before this is signed. Hopefully very soon, next couple weeks. The color also in this painting, and if you happen to take a walk and spot this, you'll definitely see all this. It's got the beautiful Prussian blue, the pinks, absolutely fantastic. Nature's got gorgeous, gorgeous colors of its own. Nothing was actually made up except one thing. Those spots you see there, the lichen, we'll call them. I put this panel on the floor and happened to drop the paint on the panel about 5 or 6 feet from the panel on a ladder. And it just happened to create its own beautiful little piece of nature there. I detailed it and finished those off, but that just kind of came out of the blue. Something like that happens once in a while. But this is another favorite painting of mine. It should be done soon too. Hopefully '95. And we could go to one more painting if you like. There's another type of painting I like to do. I specialize in vintage cars or sports cars. Here we have a Lamborghini Countach. The 25th edition. There's only a few made that year. I think it was like 3 years ago, 1993. This painting actually was done in '93. The car itself, this particular car was worth $332,000 when I painted. And I have photos of it. It came from a showroom up in Providence, Rhode Island. A friend of mine owns a Lamborghini dealership up there. And he let me photograph and sketch it, and I thought it was very, very interesting. Quite different. It's a car I wish I had someday. I don't know if it ever happened, but it's one of my favorites. I also do Rolls Royces and old Fords, but this is a particular painting I was quite interested in with the colors, and it's one of my favorite paintings too.
Do you still do cars?
I do occasionally, maybe one a year. Yeah.
Well, I'm astonished at the detail you get in the cars. Also, you yourself must be interested in what man can do.
Yeah, that's true. I like speed, so I like the sports car. Yeah,
yes,
they're great.
But you may like speed, but you paint very...
I paint fast, too,
Do
by
you?
the way.
Do
Yes,
you?
I do.
I was watching the little pebbles turn up in that painting of
Yeah.
that wonderful tree,
Yes.
which reminds me somehow of a naked giraffe.
Oh.
The shape of
Well,
it
it has the
is
shape
really,
of
yes,
an animal. That's true.
Yes,
That's
yes.
true.
And there you have the little pebbles by the side and the grains of sand.
And the little turn where they're chick in the
Yes,
shadows.
yes.
Yes.
I can see each one of those being painted, but it's an illusion, isn't it?
Yes. All my work's an illusion.
I see.
Yeah,
Yes.
to fool the eye, you know.
To fool the eye, yes, yes.
But that one there, by the way, we go back to that for a second. Is that if you notice a long shadow
Yes.
going to the right, that I walked by, and that's what turned me on.
That's what turned you on, the shadow.
That one
Yes,
thing
yes.
did it. Yeah,
Yeah.
came back, photographed, and sketched, and there it is. Yeah.
And the little bird tucked under the...
Yeah, well, I was a little
yes.
added touch.
Yes,
A little added
yes,
touch. I
yeah.
put her in there
Yeah.
with her chick.
One of the things that you told us when we were in your studio was that you sometimes work in pastel.
Yes, pastel, acrylic, mixed media.
Yes,
Yeah.
and then yes, you add the detail in,
Yes.
acrylic. I have never heard of anybody doing that before.
Oh.
It may be much more common than I suppose, but I was
I've
quite
heard of it
struck
before.
by this.
I've never tried it until only a few years ago. I was
Yes.
strictly from oil to acrylic.
Yes.
But one day I just got into it and it worked. It went very smoothly, nice, so I kept it up.
Yes. Well, I would imagine that the acrylic would be absorbed by the pastel.
It's very tricky. Too much water in the paint, yes. It'll start
Yes.
to buckle the paper and then you're in trouble.
Yes.
You have to practice it a certain amount and it'll set just right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it certainly does bring out
It
the
works.
details.
Works out fine,
Yes.
yes.
Pastel itself is much improved from the early days,
Oh,
isn't
yes,
it?
yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
I enjoy it.
you also use brushes that have a little mop on the end.
The little striping brushes, the small ones?
No, I mean the large
The
ones where you
bristles.
have, no, you have a little cloth mob cap over
Oh,
the...
that's
over
a
the-
malt stick that you use to lean on the canvas when you have to go to a certain length across, so you don't... But basically, it's for oil paints.
I
Because
see.
the canvas is
I
always
see.
wet.
Yes,
You know,
yes.
acrylics dry kind of pretty rapidly, but it's just a stretch maybe to a far corner.
Oh, I see.
Okay.
But you actually have paint on that?
Oh, no, no.
No.
No, that just leans against the canvas or the outer part of the canvas.
I see.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
right, so that you can reach.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
I understand. All right. Now I've got it straight.
Okay.
Not that I'm about to start.
You should try.
But they are lovely, lovely things. No, I have too much respect for art to even try it myself. And I am, well, I see the evolution of your own talent. You must have started with oils.
I started with
Yes,
oils, yes.
yes.
Yes, through burning lead, what I
Yes,
mentioned a few
yes.
minutes ago, yeah.
Well, and then when did acrylics come in?
Oh, they're about 20, 25 years now.
Not
yeah.
more than that.
Yeah,
no.
yeah, just about
So,
that.
and you found them easier?
Faster. Again, I
Faster,
paint
yes,
fast, and
yes, of
they dry
course.
fast, and they work
Yes,
fine with me. Yeah,
yes.
I really enjoy it.
Well, now we are going to show a commercial about New London. This is one that was produced by the Griffis Art Centre, and it's really rather nice. You'll be surprised yourself at how much New London has to offer.
Oh, great.
art is a process that fills our lives. See it, enjoy it. This public service announcement is brought to you by the Griffis Art Center, New London, Connecticut.
Well, it wasn't a commercial. It was a public announcement. You were not asked to buy anything. But wasn't it handsome?
It was wonderful.
Yes. One rather forgets sometimes
Yes,
that
that's
all
true.
the points of beauty one takes them for granted.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And I hope you don't take anything of yours for granted, because your studio is a place of beauty.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Yes. You work on several paintings at the same time.
I'm into about 6 or 7 all at once, yeah. A few days on one, let it go by a week or two, and I'll start something else. I'll constantly working on something new.
Yes.
Constantly working on something.
Yeah. That's curious. You don't have to concentrate.
Well,
it's up there in your head
yeah,
somewhere.
and I'll get bored if I just stay on one painting, especially
see,
a big painting,
yes.
day in, day
Yeah.
out. You just have to put it aside for a few weeks
Yes.
and go to something new. Then you come back all refreshed, believe it
Yes.
or not. Yeah.
Yes,
New-
I
new
suppose
mind.
that's true.
Yeah.
You had some stone there with lichen on it that was absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, well,
but I can imagine that doing each little
Day
spot
after
would
day, yeah,
eventually get
yeah.
to you.
Yes, absolutely.
And
yeah.
you'd have to go to something else.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
How about feathers? How long does it take? How
Feathers
long
too.
can you stay on feathers?
I don't want to even think about it. You just sit and you just paint. You just
Yes,
go at
yes.
it. But again, you know, it's maybe 5 or 6 days on a painting, and then put it aside for a couple of days. Go to
Yeah.
something, maybe a pastel, which is much easier. You know,
Yes.
Then go back to the hard work.
Right. Well, you also do occasionally the fool the eye, the trompe-l'oeil.
Yes.
There was a nice picture in there. I'm not sure whether it was in our first location
Mhm.
shot or whether it will be in the next one coming up,
Mhm.
of a magazine and,
Oh, yes, the Yankee.
and a ticket.
Yes.
one
The
of
salt
those-
box.
Yes,
Yes,
the salt box.
that's
yes.
right.
That was a metal salt box.
That was,
wasn't it?
yeah. I
Yes,
go throughout
interesting.
Connecticut searching for these little things, and I piece them together.
Yes, yes.
And there comes a
Very
still life.
handsome
Yeah.
and very nicely placed, I thought.
Yeah, off center
Yes,
a little bit. Yeah. Mhm.
Yes, and so you have the domestic, you have the man-made,
Mhm.
and you have the nature-made.
Right. That's right. A little bit of everything.
Yes, but
It's never boring.
to everything you apply the same detail, and I think that's absolutely splendid.
Thank you.
And we're going to see more of it just now, more of your paintings, and I
Great.
think you will have some things to say about them. We will end with a very nice little hurrah, I say, in the location shot, because we will be talking again after that. But I hope our audience is ready for this one. It's really a very interesting shot. Shoot, I should say.
I came about to do this composition as I was vacationing in Maine a couple of years ago, and I drove by and I noticed it on a clothesline. Some apparent reason. They must have washed it or whatever, but it stuck in my mind for years. And I got the flag about the same size. I brought it in my studio, and I started a composition from the sketch. Of course, you'll see it on the panel that I did just a few days ago. Just started it. But that's how I came about to start the flag. I'm just going to call it the American flag. What I'm trying to accomplish with this flag and catch the sketch on the panel is I noticed that the background showed right through the material. It was thin, weather-beaten, worn out, and I hope to accomplish showing maybe a little background material in there too. That'd be nice with the ocean in the background. Very simple, but hopefully very, very moody. Here I have a sculpture my father did about 10 years ago. It all started from him, Grandpa Smith. And the portrait I did in 1964 of him in my studio. This is in my private collection. Right here. When he was a teenager, he was a fighter. As you notice, the puffed up nose, broken nose, that's Frank Smith. His father forced him to fight when he was a young boy to protect himself. But that's my father. That's where it all began.
You came by your talent honestly, by which I mean, of course, that your father
Yes.
painted before you. Now, was your father what you call a professional painter? Did he make his
he wasn't.
living from
No,
that?
he never followed his dream. But
I
he's
see.
seen it through his son
Yes.
before he passed away.
He did.
Oh, he
I'm
did,
very,
yes.
he must have been very
Oh,
proud of you.
absolutely. He's my
Yes.
number one backer
Yeah.
from the early age, even
Yes.
in grammar school. And I came home with little sketches, and he would ask, "Did you finish this painting today? Did you do that little sketch?" And I said, you know, as a child, you say, "No,
Yes.
I'm going to take a walk hiking." And so, okay.
Yeah.
Always encouraged me.
Encouraged because
From
he
way
loved
back.
it.
Oh, he did,
He
yes.
loved it, yes.
Yes.
And he was a talented man,
He
too.
was, yes.
He preferred to carve.
Yes, wood carvings, yes.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes. And of course, your son has followed you.
Absolutely.
Isn't that
3
interesting?
generations. Isn't that
Shall
wonderful?
we show the audience this is, his name is Frank
Jerry Stevens.
Jerry Stevens.
Yes. This is one of the small pieces. See, like this. He just finished a 5 by 13 piece, 5 by 13 feet.
Well, they're really extraordinarily
They are.
handsome hangings.
They are.
They're, of course, a
Anyway.
complete departure from your work,
Totally
but
different.
any
Totally
son
different.
would do that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. Well, I think it's perfectly lovely, and I can imagine it as decorative and also a real art.
Oh, he does quite well.
Yes,
Quite well.
he
yes.
does. And they must be very difficult to do.
They are very difficult. In fact, once in a while I sneak in his studio and I watch him. And he gets his saw and he just goes at it like I would with a pencil on a canvas.
Yes, yes.
He sees it and he sees it in his mind before he touches it. It's
But then
incredible.
he paints it in a very interesting way,
Yes.
too. Not just one
That's true.
color, not he dabbles the paint around.
Yeah, well, it's a
the
lot of
way
airbrush effect
yes,
in there too.
Yes,
Yes. Mhm.
But it's very
it's
handsome,
unique,
very
yes.
original.
It
Yes,
is, it
yes.
really is, yes.
Now, so all right. So you are the 3 Smiths.
Yes.
Grandfather, father.
Yes.
And you follow in a tradition.
We do.
There are the Wyeths.
Yeah, absolutely.
New.
Mhm.
And
NC,
Andrew is
yeah,
still
yeah.
painting.
Yes,
I
oh
believe.
yes, he is.
Yes.
Yes.
And then let's see, there were the peels, the
Yes, again.
American peels. How
Yeah.
many? There were about 4 of
I
them,
believe
were
so,
there
yeah,
not?
the whole
yes,
family, yeah.
yes.
That's wonderful. That's
And then Tiepolo, the Italian, father and son, and Bruegel. I believe there was a Bruegel the elder, and they never used the words senior and
Oh, really?
junior. Well, not in those days,
No,
anyway.
no.
But it's interesting.
It is. It's unique. It's
yes,
not. It's
yes.
not. You don't catch it too often. That's for
No,
sure.
no, indeed.
Yeah, no.
And
Well, I'm very pleased with him. He's doing quite well.
do you have grandchildren yet?
No.
Well,
yet.
let us see what
Hopefully
happens there.
soon.
Yes. Oh,
Hopefully
really?
soon.
Your,
I'm
your
looking
son
in the
is
camera at my
married?
daughter.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Of course, you had a lovely portrait of your daughter
Yes.
too.
Yes. Sleeping Beauty.
Yes.
The title was.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Well, we showed our audience some of the pictures I had mentioned beforehand. The Yankee magazine one.
Yes.
What was the picture on the cover of the Yankee magazine?
Yes. The cover was the cover of Yankee, but the painting was Jamie Wyatt's painting.
Oh, was
so
it
I actually
in
painted.
that?
I painted a painting.
Yes, yes. Well, that's traditional too.
Yeah.
The older, the classical painters used to do
Oh,
that.
yes, yes.
Those wonderful pictures of galleries and sometimes cathedrals
Absolutely.
filled with paintings.
Painting master. Yeah, they painted the
must have-
masters.
Yes, they must have had a lot of fun doing
Oh, I
that,
think so, yeah.
reducing them to miniatures
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
such.
That's true.
Yes.
That's true. Yes.
Well, you obviously have a lot of fun with this.
Oh yeah. Well, I
Yes,
love this. This is
yes,
my life.
Yeah.
My art's in me, and I'm in my art. There's no question about it.
Yes.
Yes.
But you still have time for pets.
Oh, yeah.
I must
okay.
tell our
Yes.
audience about the cat.
The disaster.
The disaster while we were there. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it on camera because it was really quite an interesting sequence. Gerard Smith paints with a palette of glass on a low table, and about a third of the table is palette. 1/3 is brushes and paints.
Paints, oh, yeah.
There is the glass
A bowl of water,
the bowl
yes.
of water, and the plants behind. Well, the cat took one look at us and jumped up on the palette, which had acrylic, which was of course slightly oily. He landed in the oil, he slithered, knocked over the bowl of water,
Yeah, brushes.
knocked over 3 plants, and down went the
Oh,
brushes. He couldn't have done it if he tried.
No,
But
it's a riot.
you were so patient about it. Has he done this sort of
No,
thing before?
first time
No?
ever.
Well,
First time ever.
well, perhaps we frightened
Yeah,
him.
no.
But he is a handsome cat,
Yes.
although not very colorful.
No, that grayish brown.
Yes.
He's a stray cat. Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
yes, he
Yeah.
knew better.
Yeah. He found
Yes.
a wonderful home, no doubt about that.
Yes, well, if his colors had offended you, then you might not have kept him. So he's a very pale cat, but charming. And
Yes.
you have you had a dog.
A dog,
you painted
turkey,
a portrait
yes,
of your
yes.
dog.
Yes, German Shepherd,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
And
That's,
I had birds, and I had just about everything. Yeah, fish, and you
yes.
name it.
You have birds.
I had.
Yes, you had.
Had,
You-
yes.
Yes. Well, you live up on that bluff there, and it's handsome. You have
Very nice.
you can see the river from there.
Yeah, we've been there 18 years. Yes.
18 years,
Uh-huh,
yes.
Yeah.
Well, as I said, you're a very lucky man because not
Oh,
too
yes.
many artists live from their paintings
No,
nowadays.
I have lessons too. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
Give lessons too.
And did you discourage your son when he wanted to paint?
Kind of.
Did you?
I told him it was a hard life, but
Yes.
he insisted. I said, well, all right, then I'll back you. But he knows what he's in for. It's not an easy life.
No,
for sure.
but he knows it's a happy life.
Yeah, well, you can make it. It's up
Yes.
to you to make it happen. Yes.
Well, you obviously enjoy your work
I do.
very
Oh, yes,
much.
I love it,
Yes, yes.
'Cause,
And because of your work, you enjoy your surroundings.
Absolutely. It's
And-
also the support of my family, too. My dear wife, Carol, and Jerry, of course, and Suzanne,
Yes, yes.
and my son-in-law, you. They all back me 100%. So
Well,
you need that, too.
Yes, you need that too. But I think they're back to winner.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll go on painting for very, very many years.
I hope so, too.
Yes.
I hope so, too.
And I'm glad that your father saw your success.
It started it all from him, yes.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, yes. That's great. A great guy.
Yes. Well, now we'll have to sign off. This is Art Talk, program, as I said, number 69, with Gerard Smith, who is a realist and a naturalist, and a very excellent, very talented, skillful painter, and a very successful one. And I'm very glad that he started off our new season. Thank you for listening.